The Forbidden Samurai Code, the Victorian lie that rewrote Japanese history. Close your eyes and picture a samurai. You see a man of stoic silence, a blade that breathes with his soul, and a heart ready to burst for honor. But what if I told you that this image is a Victorian-era ghost? A ghost born not in the fires of the Sengoku period, but in a quiet study in Philadelphia in 1899. We have been looking at a reflection, thinking it was the man. But the man in the mirror never existed. The mystery begins with a book, Bushido, The Soul of Japan, written in English by Natobi Anazo. Natobi hadn't even studied formal history. He was asked by Westerners, how do the Japanese teach morals without religious instruction? Panic-stricken and seeking to make Japan appear civilized to the West, he synthesized European chivalry with Japanese aesthetic. He didn't record history, he created a brand. Before this book, the word Bushido was barely known to the common Japanese person. The real warriors of the 1500s were not poets, they were brutal entrepreneurs of violence. If a lord didn't pay, they left. If a battle was losing, they switched sides. Honor was a luxury for the survivors. Why do you think the three great unifiers of Japan were masters of betrayal? We celebrate their vision, but their reality was a cold-blooded chess game where the pawns were human lives. They didn't worship the sword, they obsessed over the matchlock gun, the most un-samurai weapon in modern media. Here is the true mystery: how did a nation of gun-owning, gritty mercenaries turn into a nation of sword-worshipping philosophers? It was the greatest social engineering project in history. The Tokugawa shogunate didn't just unify Japan, they froze it. They took the guns, elevated the sword as a symbol of soul, to keep the warriors busy with ritual rather than rebellion, and turned a violent class into bored bureaucrats. The samurai as we know them were actually civil servants in fancy dress. This synthetic Bushido was later weaponized. In the mid-20th century, the myth was pulled from the shelves to fuel a war machine, convincing millions that dying for the emperor was an ancient tradition, when it was actually a modern reinterpretation. Even today, the salaryman follows the same phantom code: absolute loyalty to the lord, the corporation, and the suppression of self. The mystery isn't what the samurai were, but why we need to believe they were heroes. The real history of Japan is far more fascinating than the myth. It is a story of radical adaptation, terrifying intelligence, and the power of storytelling. When you look at the samurai now, don't look for the soul of the sword. Look for the human who survived against all odds by being smarter, colder, and more flexible than the stories suggest. The truth is hidden in plain sight. Wait, if Bushido was a brand, who was the marketing director? It wasn't just Natobi. In the shadows of the Meiji Restoration, the new government faced a crisis. How do you turn a nation of fragmented clans into a unified empire? They needed a national religion. They looked at the West's Christianity and the knights, and they realized they needed a warrior saint. They systematically erased the records of samurai as mercenaries and replaced them with saints of the blade. It was the most successful rebranding in human history. In 1876, the Hatore, or Sword Abolishment Edict, was passed. The government took the very swords they would later claim were the soul of the samurai. Why? To break their spirit. But here is the twist: once the real samurai were powerless and broken, the government started selling the idea of the samurai to the public. They killed the man, then worshipped his ghost. They needed a population that was as loyal as a samurai, but as obedient as a servant. And what about the ninja? If the samurai were honor, the ninja were the shame they had to hide. But here is the secret: they were often the same people. A samurai would perform ninja tasks at night and samurai rituals by day. The separation of noble warrior and dirty spy is another modern myth designed to keep the samurai brand clean. Real history doesn't have heroes or villains. It only has survivors. Does the ghost of the samurai still haunt Japan? Look at the black companies of modern Tokyo. Look at the karoshi, or death by overwork. This is not ancient tradition, it is the synthetic Bushido, still running in the background of the Japanese social OS. The loyalty that was once used to win wars is now used to win market shares. We are all living inside a 100-year-old marketing campaign. So, if the Bushido we know is a lie, what is the truth? The truth is that the Japanese people are not innately stoic or suicidal. They were a people of incredible diversity, chaos, and rebellion who were tamed by a brilliant, terrifyingly effective narrative. The mystery isn't that the samurai disappeared. The mystery is that they were so effectively replaced by a statue. But statues can be broken. And when you break the statue, you finally see the human. The next time you see a katana or a movie about honor, ask yourself, who wants me to believe this? And what are they hiding? History is written by the winners, but the truth is written by those who refuse to forget the man behind the mask. If you want to dig deeper into the forbidden chapters of history, subscribe. We're just getting started. The mystery deepens when we look outside Japan. Why does the world love the samurai so much? Because the Bushido brand was designed for you. It was Japan's first global intellectual export. When Teddy Roosevelt read Natobi's book, he bought 60 copies for his friends. The image of the unbreakable warrior became a mirror for Western ideals of chivalry. We didn't learn Japanese history, we learned what the Japanese government wanted the world to think of them. They gave us a hero, and in exchange, we gave them legitimacy on the world stage. But in this grand rebranding, someone had to be erased. If the samurai were to be noble stoic men, there was no room for the Onamusha, the female warriors. History hides the fact that in the Battle of Senbanmatsu, DNA analysis of the fallen warriors revealed that nearly 35% were women. They fought, they led, and they died. But the Bushido myth of the 19th century demanded a masculine, patriarchal narrative. The myth didn't just lie about the men, it murdered the memory of the women who held the spear. Even the katana itself holds a secret. We are told it is a soul. But for the actual smiths, it was a ledger of innovation. They weren't just making weapons, they were experimenting with metallurgy far ahead of the West. The mystery is why they stopped. When the Tokugawa peace began, the technology of the sword regressed. They prioritized beauty and ritual over cutting power. The perfect blade is a myth of the peacetime. The real blades of the war era were chipped, brutal, and constantly evolving. We worship the stagnation, not the innovation. What if the real samurai saw us today? They would likely laugh at our obsession with their honor. These were men and women who mastered the art of surviving. They would not want us to be stoic or to die for the company. They would want us to be like them, adaptable, cunning, and fiercely independent. The true Bushido, the one they never wrote down, was the code of the survivor. It wasn't about how to die, it was about how to live when the world is on fire. The masks are falling. The statues are cracking. We are finally entering an era where we can see Japan for what it truly is. A land of beautiful, terrifying, and deeply human complexity, not a theme park of honorable ghosts. But ask yourself, now that the myth is gone, what will you put in its place? The mystery of the samurai is over. The mystery of you begins. Thank you for watching. Japan's history still hides countless secrets, and we're just getting started. If you want to uncover more mysteries of samurai, ninja, and ancient Japan, subscribe and join us on this journey through time.